What is your accidentally caught your spouse cheating story? My husband Tom was obsessed with this new fitness app that tracked his daily steps. He'd brag constantly about hitting 15K steps every single day, showing me his phone screen with this huge grin like he'd won the lottery. The weird part? Tom worked from home as a software developer and barely left his desk chair. But every evening, he'd wave his phone around. Babe, look, another 15K day. I'm basically a marathon runner at this point. I'd laugh and congratulate him, but inside I was genuinely confused. When exactly was this couch potato getting all these steps? One rainy Tuesday morning, I borrowed his phone to check the weather because mine was charging upstairs. As I swiped to close the weather app, I accidentally tapped his fitness tracker. Instead of closing it, I paused. I was actually curious how someone who sits in an office chair for 12 hours a day manages to outwalk me, someone who actually goes to the gym and takes my dog on daily walks around the neighborhood. I opened his step history and started scrolling through the data. That's when I noticed the pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday, without fail, there was this massive spike in his activity between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. The rest of the days showed barely 3,000 steps total. But what really caught my attention was the GPS map feature. I clicked on it and saw these detailed route maps of his daily walks. Most days showed tiny circles around our house, probably just trips to the kitchen or bathroom. But Tuesdays and Thursdays, there was this perfect straight line to the same exact location every single time. Always the same destination, always the same 3-hour window. My hands started shaking as I zoomed in on the GPS pin. The location was an apartment complex called Sunrise Gardens, about 20 minutes from our house. I'd never been there, never even heard of it. But then it hit me like a truck. My stomach dropped so fast, I actually felt nauseous. My sister Katie had mentioned she lived at Sunrise Gardens when she moved out last year after her messy divorce. Katie, who'd been coming over for family dinners way too often lately, always bringing Tom his favorite beer. Katie, who always asked specific questions about Tom's schedule, like when he'd be taking his wellness walks, or if he was working from home that day. I thought she was just being friendly, maybe a little lonely after her divorce. But now those conversations felt different, calculated even. I checked the timestamps more carefully. Every Tuesday and Thursday from 1:03 p.m. to 4:47 p.m., almost exactly 3 hours and 45 minutes. Right during his so-called lunch breaks, when he'd tell me he was going for long walks to clear his head and get some exercise. I need to disconnect from screens for a bit, he'd always say, kissing my forehead before heading out. All this coding is frying my brain. A good walk always helps me think better. I'd been so supportive, even proud of him for prioritizing his health. What a joke. That Thursday, I made a decision. I followed his GPS route myself. I parked outside Sunrise Gardens at 12:45 p.m. and waited in my car, heart pounding. I felt like I was in some terrible movie, but I had to know for sure. At exactly 1:03 p.m., just like the app predicted, Tom pulled up walking into the parking lot. I watched him holding a grocery bag and a small bouquet of flowers. My favorite flowers, actually. Yellow tulips. I felt sick watching him walk confidently toward the building like he'd done this 100 times before. He went straight to apartment 2B without even checking the building directory. Katie answered the door before he could even knock. She was wearing a silk robe I'd never seen before, burgundy with lace trim, something she definitely couldn't afford on her part-time retail salary. She pulled him inside immediately, and through the window, I could see them embracing. Not a friendly sibling-in-law hug. This was something else entirely. When he finally came home that evening, he bounded through the door with his usual energy, immediately pulling out his phone to show me his step count. Babe, look! Another amazing day! 15,147 steps. I'm telling you, these daily walks are changing my life. I feel so much healthier and happier. I looked at him standing there, so pleased with himself, so completely convinced he was fooling me. I just smiled and said, wow, honey, you must have had quite the workout today. I'm so proud of how dedicated you've become to your fitness routine. Turns out he was walking just not for his health benefits. The next morning, I packed my bags and never looked back once.